kitchen island in the works. Let's make some legs today, shall we? So we have limited counter space in our kitchen and a growing amount of coffee equipment. So what do you do when you need more space? Well, you can move your couch from the window nook, if you have a window nook, and make room for a kitchen island devoted to coffee stuff and a little bistro table and chairs. You know, in other words, make your own coffee shop. My name is Linn, this is the Darbin Orvar channel. Let's get started. Step number 1, the wood. Okay, for legs for this project, I've got some red oak right here. I think red oak is a great wood, and I'm going to be using cherry for the countertop. Normally I wouldn't do that, but I'm going to stain this red oak a dark color, so I think that contrast is going to be really nice. So I want to turn these legs on the CNC. Now in order to do that, I need some bigger pieces to work with. First step, jointing. So this is smooth here and jointed and planed on these sides, but not this way. Now I need to glue another piece on right here. Nice, beautiful, smooth side. Next time for the planer. You know, I don't think it ever gets old actually having a planer like this. Let's glue the pieces up. There are a lot of different directions to take a leg in, right? Straight, angled, round. But first of all, let's glue the pieces together to create some thicker stock to work with. So this is going to create a rather chunky leg, and I'm going for something like a little over 3 inches square. Then once they're glued up, you know, square them up, and then figure out a way to mount them onto the chuck in the CNC, which might be a bit of a challenge because this is like a bigger, 3x3 is bigger than I've ever mounted on there before, so. I'm always a little nervous that I'm not using enough glue when I'm doing a glue up, when in reality you often don't need as much as you think. Step 3, cutting. Okay, so the very first thing we did here was to trim and square up the legs so that they are the same size, so that they are perfectly square. And what we're doing here, which I thought was a pretty good idea, is to cut tenons on the legs which will fit into the chuck. Because first, I was debating about gluing on a sacrificial piece that was smaller, but we had enough length to work with here. Now, if this doesn't make any sense, let me explain. Okay, so on a traditional lathe, you know, you can take the chuck off and secure the wood between 2 live centers, right? But on the 4th axis on the CNC machine, the only way you can secure the wood is by fitting the wood in the jaws of the chuck. You can't take the chuck off. So whatever wood you secure on the 4th axis here need to fit inside the chuck. That's why we need these tenons, so that the wood is a little bit smaller, so that everything can be secured properly. Step number 4, design. Now, a kitchen island or a kitchen table, it's pretty basic when you think about it. You have a surface and you have legs, and then you may have like some storage or whatever. So they really, you know, affect the way this piece is going to look. I mean, I like square legs, I like tapered legs. Sometimes I think that turned legs can look quite traditional and ornamental, which I like sometimes, but that's not really what I was going for here. I wanted a very clean and minimalistic and modern style on the leg, while also keeping it round. So here we have a sketch of the island. As you can see, the legs are square on top, square at the bottom, and round in the middle. We're gonna put on casters. Those are the wheel-looking things at the bottom. Now, the other thing to pay attention to here is the shelves and how they are held in place. Okay, you have round legs. How do you secure shelving to round legs? Like, how do you do it? Do you create some kind of blocks to go underneath? Another way to go, carve out little nooks in the legs themselves where the shelves can rest. That's a neat concept, I think, and lends itself very well to doing on our 4th axis CNC machine. Because this is one of those things where you could certainly round the legs on a traditional lathe. However, then you'd have to create those indentions in some other manner, and you have to create them identical too on all 4 pieces. But here we can do it all in one step and run the same program, you know, 4 different times for 4 different legs. Now I'm using Vectric by Aspire to make the designs, and designing round objects is definitely different from designing traditional, you know, flat pieces. The image you see here, think about it as a piece of paper that used to be round, rolled up, and now you unrolled it, and that's what you're looking at. So things to consider: the tenons going into the chuck, where the square sections will go, which we won't actually cut out, we'll leave those square, and then where the rounded sections are, and most tricky of all, where these little carved out nooks will go. So 2 on each leg. How do you carve out a corner section in a round piece? How deep is it? Etc. And here you can see a visual representation of what it will look like. Step 5, turning. First step here is rounding. We're using a 1/4 inch end mill bit for the roughing stage. It's cutting pretty aggressively, and you can see the very distinctive red oak grain here. Can't you? Just like screams at you, pops out at you. And once the leg is rounded here, it dives into creating those holes, those little pockets. Now changing the bit to a 1/4 inch bullnose bit and reconfiguring. And this will smooth out the surface now during these finishing passes. Now, I think this is so neat to watch. Having the wood move around slowly and the bit moving quickly. I mean, that's really it, because that's one of the main differences between a traditional lathe and a CNC lathe. On a regular lathe, the wood spins really fast and the tool is held steady, more or less. But with the CNC, the wood moves slowly around, but the bit is first of all spinning really, really fast, and then moving up and down and then back and forth. So you've got so much movement going on, and the force of the spindle is so much greater. Okay, now once we realized, oh, this turned out good. It worked out well to cut out tenon and put it in the chuck, and the design worked out well. You know, time to do the 3 remaining legs. I was debating here, should I mess around with doing a test leg first, but I didn't have any material for it, so I figured, you know what, let's just do the oak. Let's hope it's gonna work out, and it did. And finally, a little test fit here. Now, as you can see, this is chunky. I mean, there's going to be a chunky countertop, drawers, and of course 2 shelves. So it's going to be a very substantial piece here. So the last step here is joinery, but that is more related to the construction of this whole piece. So we're going to save that for the next video. Now obviously, depending on how you are planning to join these pieces together, you may have to take that into account when you make the legs in the first place. I'm going to be using dowel joinery for this. But let's save that for the next video, which is going to be all about making a kitchen island. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. As always, I want to say a big thanks to our patrons for supporting the channel. And if you want to provide support, encouragement, that kind of thing, first thing to do is watch and share and comment and all of that. Patreon is a great way, and the third way is to visit our shop, where you can pick up one of our wax tins or a wax pot. We made some more. We have a couple of more of these beautifully carved out wooden jars, pots, boxes filled with wax polish. Makes a really nice little Christmas present, I think, anyway. So stay tuned for the next video in the series. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon. Bye.